just going to give a few words to you first, and then I'm going to give you the actual talk. And I'll explain to you what the talk is about in these few words. When I travel with my wife Carmen to pro-life conferences, or whenever we're invited to speak in different countries, people refer to us as the missionaries from Ireland. And it is in that context that I'm basing my speech upon. I also include a story. It's a true story. But people like to hear stories because they can relate stories to their own lives. This story will demonstrate to you the power of the new sacramental for the world today. That is the Rosary of the Unborn. For those of you who are not aware about this rosary, it is similar to your normal rosary, except that instead of beads, it's a teardrop. And inside the teardrop is a little baby. Our Blessed Mother has said, when you pray on this rosary with love in your heart, you save a baby from abortion. She has given this rosary to conquer abortion in the world. I was in Germany last year, outside an abortion clinic with Father Tom Mattenauer, President of Human Life International, or former president, and we were with a group of priests. We went through in a procession through the town to an abortion clinic. We were praying on this rosary, and Father Mattenauer told me to continue to spread this rosary in the world, which we are doing. So that's just the introduction, and let me just say one last thing to you, that your own rosary is fine, but your own rosary is for a special reason. It's praying for your health, your family, problems, education. And there's a leaflet available for everyone. And our late Bishop Michael Russell, explains exactly the difference between your rosary and this rosary. So you can have one of those free, and without I explaining it in detail, Bishop Russell explains it much better than I. Reverend Father, brothers, sisters and friends, my name is Declan Waters, and I am called a missionary from Ireland. A missionary is a person on a mission with a message. My message is the most important message in the world today. It is a message of the Rosary of the Unborn, the new sacramental which will conquer abortion, and is given by heaven in this time in the world today. There have been many sacramentals given in the world to the church down through the history of the church. Even the Holy Face of Jesus, the miraculous medal, the brown scapular, the red scapular, the green scapular, the divine mercy, the chaplets of the wounds of our Lord, St. Margaret Mary. But now, this new sacramental is given at a time when abortion is the problem in the world, a time when the signs are so ominous. Earthquakes, tsunamis, flooding, wars, financial problems. The other part of my message that I give is the revelation of the united hearts, the secret of salvation. And Jesus has said, there is no salvation without first entering the first chamber of the united hearts. And he said, the first chamber of the united hearts is the heart of my mother, which is no surprise to any of us. Our Blessed Mother has said that our hearts have been united since conception. The heart of Jesus and Mary, she said, have been united since conception. I deliver as best as I can, and wherever I go, these messages. Now, messengers are sometimes not welcome people, especially if they're speaking the truth. However, in my travels around the world, I've had wonderful receptions, and I attribute this totally to our Blessed Mother, because she arranges everything, and she arranges it in such a way that we have a wonderful reception. Now, in a sense, you are all missionaries. Yes, everybody here is a missionary, in one way or another. Even in your day-to-day work, moving from place to place, meeting with people on a daily basis and interacting with them, you touch people without even knowing it, because of the nature of who you are and what you are. We must realize that each snowflake has its own unique design. Every present moment is uniquely designed by grace in each individual's life as an opportunity of doing good. Remember, we only have the present moment. Nobody is guaranteed tomorrow, and yesterday is gone. The present moment is either used to its fullest or wasted. The present moment, once spent, is gone forever, never to return in the same way with its wonderful opportunity. Now let me give you an example. When we had the Word Prayer for Life conference in France in 2009, I had a problem with my laptop, and I discovered it wasn't working just as I was in the process of writing my speech for the conference. In the hotel I was staying to, I went to the receptionist. I asked the girl, would she help me? She said, all the internet is down, everything is broken, but if you go to the hotel up the road and it's working for them, you can email to me your speech and I will print it out for you and put it together. I will do this during my work. I did this, but I had to run up and down to the hotel several times, come back, check it, and eventually I got my speech ready. When the conference was over, I was about to leave the hotel and I was checking out, and the young girl said to me, she said, how did your speech go? I said, it went very well, thank you very much, and I thanked her once again. She then surprised me by saying that she had read copies of the speech and was very interested in what I was doing. To my complete surprise, she suddenly started crying, and she confided in me that she had a problem. Her situation was a crisis pregnancy, one that was very, very complicated. I was completely taken back, and although I had very little time left, I said, would you like to discuss it with me? She told me that this may end in abortion. It was so complicated. However, we spoke for some time and I explained to her the value and gift of life. How Almighty God has a plan for every baby He places in the womb, no matter what the circumstance. God is the giver of life, and no one has the right to take it away. This baby could be a president, a doctor, a pope, a poet, a priest. It could be a wonderful singer, a famous singer, a ballet dancer, a scientist, midwife, nurse, or even a mother like you, I said to her. No one knows the plan of God for anyone. I also explained that abortion was the killing of the innocent unborn. The baby has no voice with which to speak with. So I am speaking for it now, I said to her. I am speaking for your little baby whose heart has been beating since 3 weeks of pregnancy. She seemed a little better when I suddenly said, I've got to rush to catch a taxi and get to the plane. However, later on in the year, while reading my emails, I spotted a strange one from someone unknown to me. When I read this email, it stated, "Hi, do you remember me at the hotel reception in France during the World Pro-Life Congress, and you had a problem with your speech? As a result of speaking to you and reading your material, I am now the proud mother of a little baby girl." So that gives you some idea that you never know who you're speaking to, what their circumstance is, or how you can affect them. I was taken back and I was shocked, and I realized without knowing it that I had helped to save the baby. And not alone that baby, but perhaps generation upon generations that would spring from that baby. The most important thing to remember is that when I left to go to the airport, I started to pray on the Rosary of the Unborn. And I continued with it on the way home during the flight. This is one example of the power of the new sacramental for the Rosary of the Unborn today, the new sacramental for the Word. It's only one example. I have many examples, but I'm just explaining that as one. This is also an example of the present moment when we can do good without even knowing it, if we stick to our principles and stick to the truth, even in casual conversation, on a day-to-day basis amongst our friends or acquaintances. We have to recognize and understand the spiritual warfare that the world is now engaged in. Not to understand the enemy is not to win the war. Holy love is your path of victory. Prayer and sacrifice your weapons. Do not cease to understand the importance of every prayer, especially on the Rosary of the Unborn, to fight the enemy on the battleground of spiritual warfare. Abortion is a compromise of the truth. It is disordered self-love, a love that centers only on self-gratification and does not regard in high esteem all forms of human life. What a great time to work for God. It is a truly challenging time, which will be history very soon. It will be written in history that the pro-life people stood up to the evil of abortion in the world, and that they were an example in every country. In that time, the history books will also state that they killed their own babies as they were torn from their mother's womb, even though they knew full well that the baby feels the pain in the early stages of development. They did this while they were obsessed with carbon credits, climate change and a green environment, with the preservation of plant and animal life foremost in their minds. Today there is much talk about the word bankrupt, but let me describe to you today the sad state of the spiritually bankrupt heart. Such a soul lives only for self. He looks only to his own needs, his comforts, and weighs everything according to how it affects him. Such a one cannot relate to the needs of others. He is self-serving as opposed to all giving. The spiritually bankrupt are easily given over to love of power and to control, fame, money, and self-fulfillment. The solution for spiritual bankruptcy is, of course, holy love, which turns us towards God and neighbour. Holy love is the bridge which spans the abyss between heaven and earth, drawing mankind into the spiritual wealth of the Father's divine will. In today's world, we must see that any attack upon the truth is unjustified. In this light, understand that to lead a good life, one must live in the truth. Today, it is difficult at best to discern the reality of truth. Too often, power and authority are used to support lies. The temptation to choose such an unjustified path is one of self-interest, not what is best for the salvation of souls. Avarice, love of power, and its attendant spirit of love of control take over the heart, removing from the heart love of God and neighbour. Today and during this age of confusion, there is a great temptation to be disloyal to the truth. Once again, this temptation, as with all others, is born of self-interest. You must see then that self-interest often opposes reality in a quest for some personal agenda. Realize that our yes to temptation is also our yes to God's wrath. So we must do all in our power to stand up and fight against abortion in every way we possibly can. The signs are everywhere: earthquakes, floods, factory closures, drugs, social unrest, high prices, and very soon shortages of food. Recently I got a phone call from a person in Australia. The lady said on the phone, "Please help us. We need the Rosary of the Unborn. We need help urgently." She was living in Western Australia. They introduced abortion there, and before the legislation was passed, the visionary was told that Western Australia would burn and then there would be flooding. She said, "We are just smouldering after the fires, and the floods are now at the rooftops." We have sent her out Rosaries of the Unborn because she said, "We know the problem is abortion, and we know that the Rosary of the Unborn is the only weapon that we can look to help us." We also got a call from Victoria in Australia. That's the area, Victoria in Australia. They have just also received a consignment of rosaries. Now, a person who agrees with abortion for any reason is acting as a judge and jury and condemning a baby to death. I would just like to finish with a prayer. Prayer for the Remnant Church. Heavenly Mother, protect us and refuge of the faith. Lead and protect the holy remnant of the tradition of faith. Keep us faithful to the church tradition as handed down through Pope John Paul II and now with Pope Benedict XVI, and as clearly stated in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Help us to boldly bear the light of this faith in the face of all apostasy, heresy and schism. Unite us, the holy remnant, in your Immaculate Heart. Thank you very much for your attention.